But yeah, so topics today that I wanted to talk about. I wanted to talk about Antonio Brown and the best trade possible for him, or the best team, the best fit. I wanted to talk about the Broncos signing of Joe Flacco and everyone's reaction to it, and um, what other moves they could do that would have been better. And I want to talk about why teams in the NFL do not compete for championships in the same way NBA teams do. They don't seem to go all in on players and trades and things of that nature. So um, I'm not sure what you wanted to talk about, but we can start with this. So Antonio Brown. So I don't really understand why all these teams are not going all in on him. I don't understand why he's only worth a second round pick, which is what everybody's been saying.
Really? They've only been saying second round picks?
We've been saying a second round pick. They're saying he's too good for a third and not good enough / too old / too much of a problem in the locker room to be a first rounder. Now, to me, that makes no sense. I feel like every team in the NFL that is a competitor, that has a chance to win a championship, that is, trying to satisfy fans and all that, should be going all in on him. I would be willing to give up a first rounder in a heartbeat if I were the following teams. So, Patriots, the Chiefs, the Texans, the Rams, and the Saints. All of those teams have great quarterbacks, and they're one receiver away from a slam dunk championship, in my opinion. Obviously, the Patriots won last year, but that's a huge hole in their team. If they have Antonio Brown, that's like the prototypical receiver in that offense too. He stretches the field. He can do slant routes. I don't see why the Patriots wouldn't be all over him, but I also don't see why other teams would be all over him. The Saints is another favorite I have of him. I don't understand that. I feel like they don't want to sign Antonio Brown because they're like, well, if we sign him, then Michael Thomas isn't going to get his touches, and then he's going to be upset. But that doesn't make any sense. That doesn't.
The only problem with the Saints is that they already went all in last year for Davenport, their first round pick, the defensive end. They traded their first from this year, and they also don't have a third for Teddy Bridgewater. So they're kind of depleted with the 19 draft. But if they traded another first round pick in 2020, I think that would be a.
But what about a second rounder? They have a second rounder.
They do have one second rounder, but that would only give them like a fourth round pick as their first pick in the draft. So that might just hurt them later on. But Breeze's years are almost ending, so they might as well go all in.
Right, because a team like the Saints, they're not building for the future. Ingram's getting old. Obviously Thomas and Kamara are going to be there for a while, but other than that, all your studs are getting old, and I just feel like it's time to push. It's time to push the chips all in and go all in on this one season. And the Saints, that's what they needed. If they had a player to stretch the field, then they would have won the Super Bowl. Obviously, they got screwed, but they would have been destroying teams with that other option. I think that's what the main flaw of the Saints was this year, was teams at a certain point figured out that if they can bottle up Thomas and stop the run game, then the Saints have zero chance of winning.
I think the most sense it makes for is to go to the Patriots, because they just have the greatest culture in all of the NFL.
Definitely have the structure.
And they can make Antonio Brown listen. Bill Belichick is the only one that can make him listen, if anybody can. So, if he goes over to the Patriots, an aging Tom Brady, Antonio Brown can help a 41-year-old Tom Brady still live like the GOAT. So
I definitely agree with that. But what about like a team like the Chiefs, or what about a team like the Texans, who are both, I feel like, obviously the Chiefs weren't really a piece away on offense, but the Patriots were able to shut the Chiefs, or at least bottle the Chiefs up to a degree, because they, locked down Tyreek Hill, and the Chiefs didn't really have another option. Sammy Watkins doesn't seem like he's, what people.
I just think a problem that might have run in with Antonio Brown is because he has to get traded. I doubt the Steelers would even want to trade him to the AFC. So those teams might just be out of the question just because of the Steelers front office doesn't want to have to compete against one of their players. So they might be looking for NFC shooters.
That could be a true point. That could be a fair point. So it's like, so then if we're going NFC, if we're just going to hypothetically say they're not going to trade in the AFC, I wouldn't trade for him if I was a team like the Bears, because I just don't think Trubisky has an arm to I don't think Trubisky's really going to get him the ball. team like the Vikings, I feel like they're super deep at receiver. He wouldn't really fit there. But I feel like a team like the Rams, the Rams, obviously they have Brandon Cooks, but them losing Cooper Kupp this year was a big issue, and I just feel like I don't see why a team is so opposed to adding another slam dunk receiver, no matter what, even if you have a lot of receivers. It just seems Antonio Brown is a locker room issue in a way, but if you're a strong locker room, I don't think he even phases things. I mean, the Steelers have been in dysfunction since off season, and I think that's contributed to this because I find that the Steelers organization always deflects the blame away from Ben Roethlisberger, and then literally all the skill players have to take the blame, and they're sick of it. They're half the reason the team's winning. Why are they not involved? Why are they not part of the winning culture? Why is it always their fault and it's not Roethlisberger's fault, or it's not Mike Tomlin's fault? It doesn't make sense. And if I was a playmaker like that, Antonio Brown's been putting up numbers on
historic
par with Jerry Rice. Why is he not getting credit for that? Ben Roethlisberger's had amazing receivers throughout his entire career, and he gets all the credit for it. I mean, he's literally think of the receivers this dude's had. He's had Santonio Holmes. He's had Emmanuel Sanders. He's had Antonio Brown. He's had Hines Ward. He's had, who's that other guy on the Bills? Didn't he used to play for them?
Not sure.
That's four slam dunk receivers, and it doesn't seem like he can get along with any of them. Santonio Holmes left. Antonio Brown wants to leave now. Emmanuel Sanders left.
I think it has to do, you just got to start looking at, other things besides, because this is with Antonio Brown this year, and I never really heard anything that made him sound like a terrible teammate, maybe besides this year. And then last year, it was because Le'Veon Bell was selfish, and it was his fault because he didn't want to sign a contract because he didn't want to, hurt himself and then be out of money. So I think at this point, it's two of your best players. That makes other players not really want to go there, and it's destroying the Steelers franchise. Now you need to figure something out really fast.
Definitely. Mike Wallace, that's what I was thinking.
Mike Wallace.
So that's another great receiver. So it's like, I don't know. Something's gotta change in that culture, or they're never gonna get it together unless they have a perfect team of perfect gentlemen, which I just don't think really exists.
Yeah.
So we'll move to the next topic. Broncos signing. What did you think?
To be honest, I was shocked when I heard that Joe Flacco got an opportunity to go start for a team. I expected Joe Flacco to either ride bench behind Lamar Jackson and maybe just be if Lamar Jackson got hurt or started sucking, to be there. But, Joe Flacco is not worth a starting job in this league right now. I think he's 34 years old. He barely played last year, and he got hurt last year. And, the Broncos really don't have, a standout receiver that he can lean on, all that much. So I just don't see how that fits in any way. Case Keenum and Joe Flacco, to me, seem like the same person. So...
Yeah, so from an analytics standpoint, basically everything I've heard all week is that Flacco he's like the 34th ranked quarterback in almost all the metrics. He's no better than Keenum. But personally, I like the move. I don't hate the move at all. I think it's a decent move because I don't really think there's much else to do. Now, everyone else has been piling it on Elway for basically just finding quarterbacks, and then if they don't work out, just scrapping them. But I think that's the best course of action. Why are you going to just keep letting these mediocre quarterbacks just play out the season? It's ridiculous. It pisses fans off. Keenum was garbage last year. Keenum missed at least two throws that would have won 2 extra games, putting us in playoff contention. That team didn't play hard for him at the end of the year, and I think it's time to move on. Now, I don't think Flacco is a great signing, but I think the Broncos are in a weird position right now where they have too much talent to tank, but they also aren't necessarily a Super Bowl contender. I think with Flacco, though, they can make the playoffs. Now, is that necessarily a good thing? Yeah, from a fan standpoint, I think it is. I think it sucks when you have a team that's constantly mediocre and giving up. We probably gave up. It's at a mid-round pick, but I'm sure it's going to be like a 5 or a 6 for Flacco. I don't think that's the worst move in the world. If we somehow make the playoffs, now we have a quarterback that's proven himself in the playoffs, who maybe can make a couple plays and maybe we can make some sort of run. But I don't really see what other move there would be. Either find Flacco or you stick with Keenum. And it's like Keenum showed already he can't do anything. Now, while Flacco's numbers are incredibly low, he's only been with one team. And that one team he's been with has been very limited on talent. They haven't really – I mean, who's their best player in the past 10 years? Their best receiver, their
Steve
best –
Smith.
I mean, yeah, they've had a bunch of old receivers.
Yeah.
They had Bolden, they had Steve Smith, they had Mike Wallace, they had Crabtree, I think, this year. I mean, that's all old receivers, way out of their prime. Their running backs have not been, I mean,
really nothing since
Jamal Lewis. So it's kind of like, I don't know. I don't mind the move. I'd like to see what Flacco can do in a new system. I mean, we don't have a ton of talent, but we still have Sanders. We have Phillip Lindsay who's coming up. I think it's a move that satisfies fans in the short term and keeps us somewhat competitive. And also, I mean, there's no knockout quarterback in the draft this year, so it's kind of like, you know, why are we just gonna?
I think if Elway is looking at this move, I think if you spin it in the way that if you look at it in a way, it can be a good move. The only problem though is that I'll say this before I talk about that, but Flacco has 2 years left on his deal, and next year I believe it's worth around, or this year I believe it's like $21 million, and then next year it bumps up to 24. So that's pretty hefty for an old quarterback. But anyways, like if you wanted to spin it in a good way, I do think the Flacco signing is pretty good because the rest of the Broncos are win now, and their quarterback wasn't last year. So Case Keenum was not the answer, and they found that fast. So, I mean, even if Flacco flops, it's 2 years, and, you know, like they'll have another option next year, which is supposed to be a much better draft class for quarterbacks with Alabama, Tua Tagovailoa coming out, and other players. So, I mean, it's not a terrible move because you can really assess, like, if this team should tank because they're win now or if they should just, you know, like, go all in with Flacco to see how he plays. So, we'll just see how it goes throughout the start of the season. But
yeah, and especially if the Broncos restructure that contract, I think they're
expected to
a decent move. I don't think it'll be anything amazing, but I think we'll stay somewhat competitive, which I think is important. Yeah. The last topic that I had to talk about was why do teams in the NFL not go all in compared to the NBA? So I feel like the NBA teams, especially this year and the past couple of years, they've literally done everything they can. I mean, you have all these players on 1-year contracts. You have Kawhi Leonard on a 1-year contract. You have Tobias Harris, who they just traded for, who's free agent in the summer. You have Jimmy Butler as a free agent in the summer. So these big names that they know are not necessarily going to be there next year, but they're investing in because they want to win now. They want to at least make it to the finals. And I don't see teams in football ever doing that. And I know it's a much bigger team sport, so players don't affect the game as much, but I mean, you just don't see it in the NFL. Like the Saints this year had an opportunity to go get Golden Tate or go get somebody like that, and they just completely pass on it. You know, you got all these teams that just don't seem to make trades in the season. You got players that are unhappy that want to leave, and I just don't understand it. It also goes to the point, like back to Antonio Brown, they don't seem to want to cater to players at all. So in the NBA, that would never happen. In the NBA, if James Harden or someone like that was like super unhappy and just pissed off, they would try to find a solution. They would work with him. They wouldn't blast him in the media like this. And I just don't think the NFL is like that. The NFL seems like if you're a problem in the locker room, I mean, look at Odell. They're trying to just get rid of Odell now. That doesn't make any sense to me. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
I'm not sure. Like, I mean, I don't know if it's something to do with the owners or just how football is run or maybe basketball is more loose and stuff like that. But it definitely seems like that because teams really haven't gone all in. Like, the only team that I've really seen kind of go all in, but not all that much, was the Rams this past year, and that put them in the Super Bowl. They might have not won, but, I mean, they signed Aaron Donald. They got Ndamukong Suh for a year. They got Marcus Peters. They got all these defensive players, and their defense was phenomenal. And their team was really, really good. But, I mean, that shows you that philosophy works for some teams. It might not for others, but I think other teams need to actually start considering that as a way to go. So
I agree, and I feel like in football they're always talking about, oh, we're building for down the line. We're building for down the line. It's never like let's win a Super Bowl. Like, I don't know. It just seems like the NFL doesn't value a Super Bowl the way they talk. I feel like if you win a Super Bowl, one Super Bowl is a huge deal. I mean, think of the Saints. Everybody still talks about that. Everybody still remembers that, and that was years ago. and people are going to remember that forever. I just don't understand why teams don't do more to get a championship when they're in a competitive when they have that competitive team that can definitely take, one or two players away.
Well, also it has to do with, like the different free agencies. The NFL free agency, like, no one really kind of people pay attention to it or so, but they really don't see like a high name, huge profile player on the move. But the NBA, they got all these big name free agents in like the next year on the move and everything. So it just has something to do with that a little bit.
I think it's a lot to do too with guaranteed contracts. I just feel like if you're on a fully guaranteed contract, it's harder to just throw your whole career away versus like in the NFL where it's kind of like, okay, you're disposable. So I do think the money gets in the way big time with the NFL. I think that's why players are viewed as more disposable.
True. I mean, it's just, I don't know, it's just the difference between the leagues, and I don't think the NFL will ever gravitate to where the NBA is at right now. It'll only, the NFL is more stubborn, especially with Goodell as the commissioner. So I don't really see any big changes happening until he leaves the office. So
I agree.
That'll be a few years from now.
You have any topics you want to talk about?
So I just wanted to talk about how, how much different it is to see like somebody in the NBA asking for a trade as opposed to somebody in the NFL asking for a trade, like Antonio Brown, because we both have two different cases that just came out. But like Anthony Davis, kind of got like shit on by the whole entire like Pelicans organization for requesting this trade, and people kind of like despise him and stuff like that now. And like the NBA tried to play it where they tried to keep Anthony Davis playing for the Pelicans. In the past 2 games, he's put up, I think, a combined less than 20 points. He's playing awful, and tonight we'll see him on national television. So we'll really get to see how Anthony Davis is approaching this, because the NBA, they threatened a $100,000 game like fine every time a healthy Anthony Davis didn't play. And somehow, to me, that just seems like that's just destroying the whole entire organization. That's hurting the fans. That's hurting, the other players. That's hurting the integrity of the whole entire game. If you got a top 5 player openly not trying his hardest, I think that's much worse than him just sitting out.
Well, see, the thing is that blows my mind is last night he literally he literally was complaining about how his teammates didn't show the effort. That's ridiculous. Anthony Davis, to me, I've lost a ton of respect for him, and it's not even because he wants to be traded. It's all about the timing. It's all about how he went about it. It's all about everything he said before he requested that.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's ridiculous. This dude has been hurt most of the year, and we're only 6 games out the playoffs. He's missed more than 6 games this year. So how is it everyone else's fault and not his own? He has no accountability. He promised this city he was going to try his hardest and go all in on this team, and he didn't want to get traded and this and that and the other. And as soon as shit hits the fan, he's like, I need to go to LA. And I'm not even going to be cool with the Pelicans. I'm going to stay. I want to only go to LA, not like to any, not to Boston or this and that. And I don't know. I think that's incredibly selfish. He drove that message home. He said it so many times, how he wanted to finish out his contract here, how he wanted to win here, how he didn't care about like going to other teams. And then what does he do? He does it in the worst possible way. There was no way he could have done that any worse. If he would have played out the year and just been quiet, and then the end of the year came and we missed the playoffs and he requested a trade, no one would care. Everyone would be fine with it. He would have been out of here. We wouldn't have done what we're doing now. And it's unbelievable. It doesn't make any sense we have to play Anthony Davis either from like a franchise standpoint. I mean, we need him healthy, and we need a better draft pick now. Yeah, we're in rebuild. Exactly. So it's I just don't understand why the league's doing that. I don't understand how. It also pisses me off, the whole Rich Paul thing. I think it's a joke. I mean, let's be real. I know everybody likes to say how he's self-made and all this bullshit, but no, he's LeBron James's friend. He's LeBron's friend. Who's to say he would be anybody if it wasn't for LeBron? I mean, let's be honest here. So it's kind of just, it pisses me off. Everybody's acting like this is Anthony Davis's decision. Somebody's been in this guy's ear for however long he's been an agent for. And I don't have much respect for it.
I think it's a terrible thing that's going to happen too, because the Pelicans and the Lakers, who Anthony Davis wanted to get traded to, are both, the Pelicans are kind of trying to tank now, but they're both in the playoff race. Kind of not neck and neck, but like about 3 games apart from each other. And a big point that's going to come up is that an Anthony Davis, who openly came out and said he wants to go play for this other team, has to play the Lakers 3 times
that's
from now until the end of the season. And so I don't know how that's not, collusion, tampering, whatever you want to call it. Like that. Why wouldn't he try to blow that game and try his worst if he wants the team he wants to play for to do better? Like, it makes no sense to me. So,
and LeBron is just out of control, man. LeBron is out of control. This dude Will Kane made the best point. It's like you have an employer. Like, I know you're a superstar. I know you don't really technically have to answer to anyone, but you still have an employer. You're still an employee of a team in the NBA. And this dude does whatever he wants. He talks however he wants, self-proclaims himself the GOAT. And this dude is he's not an assassin. I mean, somebody said it, Scottie Pippen said it today. He's not even Kobe Bryant. I'm starting to agree with that because he doesn't compete on the level that they competed on. He doesn't want to go get it. He wants he wants to just have an easy pass to win.
Never see that look in LeBron's
No,
eye.
he's never. Because that's the main thing about LeBron. It's like if Kobe was on this Lakers team right now, he'd be like, man, if I can bring this Lakers team to the playoffs and maybe even make it to the championship, like that is the ultimate showing of my talent. Like, I'm going to prove to people that I can take any team. And I mean, he did that. Obviously, that team was much more talented than the Lakers are now, but he still had that mindset when Shaq left. And I just don't. LeBron's like, oh, these guys aren't really good enough. Time to get rid of them. He doesn't even care. I mean, all these young guys, all this young talent, and this dude just wants to get rid of them. I mean, 1 year in, he just walks in like he's the boss. Time to get rid of the coach. Time to get rid of the players. Nothing's good enough. I'm LeBron James. I need it all. And if I don't have it all, then I have an excuse for why I didn't win the championship.
The problem is that he came here for himself. He came in free agency. He knew the team before he came here. Like, they sucked last year.
But he knew deep down he was going to do this.
Well, that's the problem with it. Yeah, you could say that, but he when he first came, he said that he was going to ride with this young core. And it's not even a year or not even a season, and he's already trashing them and sitting at the end of the bench and all.
And they were in 4th before he got hurt. They were in 4th in the West. And they beat Golden State on Christmas Day.
Yeah.
And LeBron gets hurt for 18 games, and all of a sudden, none of his team's good enough. I mean, notice that coincidence, dude. It's so obvious to me why Rich Paul did that. The Lakers were going down, the Pelicans were going down. Oh, let's combine LeBron and Anthony Davis, and we'll go up. And it's like, it's ridiculous.
And it's just
both of them were hurt. Both of them were hurt.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm glad how it transpired, though. I mean, the Lakers look weaker. The Pelicans look.
LeBron looks super
better.
weak right
LeBron
now.
looks like a real public enemy number
everybody's
one.
Talking bad about him now. I think he's lost a lot of respect.
He looks like a real sleazeball right now. I mean, it just looks.
I mean, he's been looking like a sleazeball. He called himself the GOAT for beating the Warriors. Dude, Kyrie Irving was just as responsible for that championship as you were. Stop acting like you just put the team on your back and carried them across the finish line.
That's the problem with LeBron, man. Everybody just never gets credit when they're with him, and that's why.
Why would you want to play with LeBron? Why would you ever want to play with LeBron? You could get traded at any moment. You're not getting any credit for it. It's all LeBron. Like, I wouldn't want to play any sport with someone like that.
I just think Anthony Davis wants the attention that he doesn't get in New Orleans, but the attention that he's not going to realize is that when he's out for these, 20 games a season and the team's tanking, he's going to get torched in LA.
He's going to get torched
because no one cares about New Orleans. No. There's probably 1/3 the amount of media. So
he's going to get a ton of. If he doesn't win, he's going to get a ton of backlash and criticism.
And we've never seen AD play with a star.
And who knows? Is AD a winner? I mean, we don't really know yet. Obviously, they beat the brakes off the Trailblazers, but I mean, I'd give Drew Holiday and Mirotic and all those guys just as much credit as he does. So I don't know why this guy thinks he's just like this almighty power, but it just, I don't know. It bothered me. It made me lose a ton of respect for him.
With the NBA, that free agency culture and these guys thinking that they can just, want to go.
And that's something the NFL is good that they're avoiding. And honestly, that would not ever really work in the NFL unless a quarterback did it, because just no player has that much
no one has
power to change the game.
Sure. Yeah, that's what the NBA is truly unique. it's only 5 guys play as opposed to 11, and it's really like the only sport that has that
Yeah,
small
that
amount of
dynamic.
players. So it's just different.
Yeah, and the best team usually wins too. So it's kind of takes that. It takes that luck factor out. So maybe that's another reason why they don't trade as much because the NFL is like, well, this guy's, we could still easily lose.
True. I mean,
The NBA, if you add a bunch of superstars, you're
gonna
pretty
win.
much guaranteed to win. So that could be a factor.
Could be interesting.
You got anything?